Hey there, and welcome back to the Glucose Glow Up Show. I am excited you're here today, and we are going to be talking about just real life, about busy seasons, how we keep up with that in our eating and lifestyle, and just different ways that I've been making meal prep way less overwhelming lately. If you're anything like me, I've been feeling really uninspired in the kitchen lately. I'm exhausted from going to the grocery store, and I'm really just plain over it when it comes to planning meals, figuring out what I want to eat, like being an adult all the time, and having to decide what I'm going to eat every day. It's a little much between running a business, parenting, just being a human, and having to deal with life things that have come up. And I'm just in a season where things are overwhelming, things are piling up, and then what do you want when you get in those situations? You probably crave carbs, or you're over snacking, or I've been finding myself like eating maybe too often. Like, well, I just ate, but now why am I hungry again? Because I just didn't have the right nourishing foods. And so part of it is strategy, even when we're exhausted. And I see a lot of reels and other influencers like, here's what I prepped on Sunday, and I spent 7 hours making all of these things so I can just heat it up and go during the week. Well, I would like to enjoy my Sunday, so no thank you. So this is a version of me that I used to be, and now I am looking forward to more like meal batching. It's working better for me. It's what I found I appreciate more than spending hours and hours prepping things that I may or may not want during the week. So in today's episode, I'm sharing exactly what that has looked like for me recently, how I'm doing it without overcomplicating things, and a few freezer-friendly meal ideas that have been getting us through the week with less stress and more blood sugar balance. So let's get into today's episode. I'm Katie, and welcome to the Glucose Glow Up Show, where I'm making blood sugar balance for non-diabetics not just important, but actually fun and approachable. I'm a girl mama, problem solver, wellness advocate, and someone who turned a deep dive into metabolic health into real-life results, like healing my insulin resistance and unlocking my fertility journey. This podcast is your backstage pass to everything I've learned, and I'm still learning about glucose, longevity, how to beat your cravings, and stop feeling hangry. Why does this all matter? Because when your blood sugar's in check, everything just feels better, from your mood to your energy and overall health. Here we'll talk about glucose tracking, eating for balance, optimizing your health, fertility, navigating the healthcare system, a holistic approach to wellness, and biohacking your way to feeling amazing for years to come. I'm in the trenches right alongside you, working daily to manage my own glucose and have more energy for the things I love. So whether you're ready to kickstart your health, deepen your understanding of how food impacts your body, or just want a relatable space to learn and grow, you're in the right place. Let's get glowing. So I want to rewind a little bit. So when I kind of first started really focusing on meal prepping and nutrition, I mean, it was probably around the time when I had like my first job and I was working at the YMCA. I was doing marketing, and I think it just became part of who I was. I was around it a lot. It was part of the culture. I was learning a lot about fitness and nutrition in a different way. I'd always been an athlete, but I think living, out on your own and trying to learn how to prepare your meals for an entire week of work. I mean, I worked in the office. I no longer do that, but I had to make sure I had snacks and lunches and everything ready for an entire day, including my, 30 to 40 minute commute each way. So there was a lot of learning there. And around that time, I was getting really into, okay, on Sundays, I'm going all in. I'm going to prep everything that I need. I'm going to have all my little meal prep containers. I'm going to have one for each day of the week, and I'm just going to pull it out. And I even went so far as to start prepping dinner, because I would get home late, and then I'd be like hangry by the time I got home, which is a whole nother situation, right? Because maybe I didn't have the right snacks, or I didn't fuel properly throughout the day. But I was just spending so many hours in the kitchen. And really, I just even still found myself running to the store, I feel like, sometimes buying what I felt like eating, because now I have been eating the same like chickpea sweet potato thing for 3 days, and I don't want that anymore. And I feel like I started cutting down on waste. And it just like got into this cycle where I felt like I wasn't eating what I wanted to eat, and I was getting sick of the things I was eating. And, the waste part is a huge factor, and then you're still spending time making other things. So I definitely, in the moment, I did this for probably a couple years at least, trying to get into a system until I started kind of slowly working closer to home, and then I could like come home for lunch. But I definitely did this for several years. And it just like, by the time you get to Sunday night, then it's like, oh my gosh, I spent my entire Sunday in the kitchen instead of doing stuff with family or being active, being outside. So I definitely have been in this meal prep space. I think it works for some people, but I ditched it for a number of reasons, right? I was getting sick of what I was eating on repeat. I was wasting food, still going to the grocery store to get something else. It just wasn't working for me. I wanted to spend time doing things that I enjoy on the weekend. So that's where I had to start kind of rethinking what like meal prep meant to me. So why meal batching works better for me? So batching meals is really more of like a mindset shift. So for me, it's flexible. I don't feel locked into a full menu or strict plan, which it may sound like it, right? Okay, I need a plan, but I make bigger portions that I'm what I'm already cooking, right? So making a batch of chili, I'm just making extra batches of it. Like I have pre-planned and bought several ingredients to make a bigger portion of it. And if I get sick of it in the middle of the week, I just toss it in the freezer. These are things that are super easy to save and reheat if I don't want to eat it anymore, right? I didn't like pre-portion everything into like a million containers and now it's taking up space in my fridge. It's very flexible. I can eat it. It sounds great. It's good for lunches. It's good for reusing throughout the week. And I put the rest in the freezer so that when I have a day or a week when I just need something quick, and instead of running to get takeout or going to the grocery store and probably spending more on something that's already been pre-made, I have a really easy meal that costs me way less in the freezer. I mean, it reduces food waste too. We actually use it all up. I'm eating it because I enjoy it. I can have it just one time. I can have it the next day for dinner or the next day for lunch. I can throw some in my daughter's lunch for school. Very easy for me to just grab and go with what's already in the fridge. And again, going back to the freezing the meals, it's just, if I'm not going to use it all up, it's made. I just throw it in the freezer and it's ready to go. It is easier to support blood sugar balance when you're making nutrient-dense meals at home. And when you are... So I think, like I said, when the people who are meal prepping so far in advance for their whole week, like I was in the office all the time and I was trying to cut down on time, but then I get home and I'm hangry because my blood sugar was out of whack, probably, and then I'm reaching for carbs or something ultra processed. And in this case, I'm ensuring that these meals they're balanced and they're nutrient dense, and even when they're frozen, they still maintain that freshness. So you do have flexibility, but you're able to really think through like supporting blood sugar balance. And maybe that's adjusting the recipes. I'll talk about that in a little bit with different tweaks. But it definitely gives you the flexibility to support blood sugar balance. And it just buys me time on the hard days. Like I said, there's always a day I don't feel like cooking. There's always a day we have somewhere to be in the evening, or work was late. We picked up our daughter late from school. We have plans with friends, whatever it is, you have something so that on those really hard days, it's there and it's ready to go. So with my uninspired state lately, I decided to do a little batch last week, and I went back to my old spreadsheet that I had pre-baby. I did a pretty large freezer meal prep before I had my daughter, and I had this whole spreadsheet laid out. I had links and ingredients and how much of everything I was going to get, and then I went to the store and bought it all. And so, of course, yes, it's a little bit more expensive up front, but it definitely like saves you for later. And I have found that Aldi is pretty good when I do these larger trips like that. I'm not a Costco person, but maybe that would work for you too, depending upon what you are buying. But here's just kind of like a look at some of the things that I made that I threw in the freezer and also cooked. So I had this ready to go from when I was doing like pre-baby freezer meal prep. So I did a double batch of chili. I'm going to include the link in the show notes. I did chicken enchiladas, and these are really interesting because they have this mix of cottage cheese and sour cream in them, which they're so filling. Like, I have a hard time even eating 2 of these, if I'm being honest. So this recipe is really good. Also in the show notes. I did this keto ground beef and broccoli, and because it's keto, I didn't include really anything else. That was just beef and broccoli and some sauce, and so I add rice to that. Rice is something that you also could batch ahead of time and put in the freezer, like have it cooked already. But these were just like simple meals that we had throughout the week. And then the rice also worked with the chicken enchiladas. So there definitely was some overlap, and then they work really well in the freezer. They hold up throughout the week. And this plan was already made. And so I'm already sort of thinking through like, okay, how many more of these like rotations can I make? Can I make like different weeks? Like this is the set of meals. Maybe it's like a month rotation or a couple weeks or whatever it is. I'm still working through what that looks like, so definitely will be keeping you updated on what that is. But I think this is really helpful. My fear is I will get sick of these things, and then it's like, okay, I'll just throw something else in the mix. But if I can start to build out, more of this spreadsheet, that would really save me and probably other people time on things that are already working, they taste great, and they freeze really well. So these are just a few of the recipes that I had, already kind of researched and found for like postpartum meals that I pulled out of the freezer, but there are definitely, other recipes that I can share or ones that you have that could already be reworked to be glucose friendly. And, maybe for you don't add rice. Maybe you just add a side salad or roasted corn or something on the side of that casserole. Chicken enchiladas could be the same. Maybe you skip the rice or go for a lower carb tortilla. Almond flour tortillas don't work as well, I don't feel, for rolling, but those are like probably my go-to for like quesadillas and things like that. Chili's great. I like to add like sourdough discard crackers and a side salad, honestly, but you could go with, more roasted veggies or something else there too. I feel like a lot of these easy to prep meals are good for blood sugar. I would look out for, a lot of these like breakfast sandwiches or just things that just seem really carb heavy. I kind of like these casserole chili type meals where they're more veggie and meat forward, and then you can like add in healthy fats and like avocado, nuts and seeds, and just more fiber with the veggies. So just some things to look out for, but I'm definitely going to keep updating with the different meal rotations that we're working on. Just some final thoughts here. Like, you don't have to go all in on this like fancy meal prep with these organized fancy refrigerator pictures. They get their label makers out and everything's labeled, and this is the snack drawer, and this is all my meal prep containers, and all my drinks are perfectly lined up on the right shelf. Like, that's inspiring, but I don't know how many of us really have a refrigerator that looks like that. And maybe you do, but does it last like more than a day? Probably not. So I just think keeping it simple. If you don't want to spend time in the kitchen one full day, then spread it out throughout the week, like cook a few times, and then you have several meals throughout the week. That's sort of the approach that I've been taking. And so I'd love to know if you're trying this or what meals you've been cooking, and maybe if you have questions on how to make them more blood sugar friendly, I'd be happy to brainstorm those ideas with you. So just DM me on Instagram at glucoseglobe. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope this episode gave you a few ideas or left you feeling inspired to start maybe meal batching instead of spending meal prepping hours on a Sunday. It's hard. You don't have to do it all, but there are, little hacks that can help make things a little easier, especially if you're really in the thick of it or just going through a busy season. So until next time, keep on glowing.